All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We have a very special little podcast here. We have the very amazing Geoff Wells with us today. We are at the CAOC travel seminar in Hawaii, in Maui. We have a little bit of noise going on in the back. You'll forgive us for that, but an amazing sort of background. And you know, we have an opportunity to talk to Geoff just about everything that's kind of been going on. But before that, we just kind of want to get a little bit into your practice, sort of what got you going, what inspired you to become an attorney. You have an amazing career, you have amazing verdicts, settlements, but who is Geoff and how did Geoff get started in the law?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Kenny. Honored to be here, and I'm honored really to be president of CAOC this year. I know how important it is going to be the next few years, really to protect the civil justice system for our clients, people we represent. So honestly, I'm the only person in my family of my siblings to go to college. So I didn't know any lawyers. I'd never met any lawyers. My parents had like one person that they knew that was a lawyer. I went, I guess when I was in college, to go to meet him, and he told me, don't become a lawyer. So that was, so I had no really inspiration on that.
Encouragement.
Great encouragement. So really what I wanted to be was a Major League Baseball player. I'll be honest, that's what my goal was. I went to Washington, we had a great team, we had good coaching, and I just, was a right-handed pitcher, and I couldn't throw 92 and wasn't quite good enough. So I realized at the end of that, my kind of fifth year of college, I took this business law class. I had a guy named Professor Jerry Baldesty, I still remembered his name, and he taught kind of the Socratic method in that class.
That's fun.
And that was the first time that I got to go to school where I didn't have to go and do a 3-hour practice after school or an hour and a half weightlifting in the morning before school. So I had all this time to actually get really good grades.
That's fun.
And to study where all these other guys were studying, I was having to work out and do stuff. So I didn't get that opportunity early on, but as a result, honestly, my girlfriend in college, her older sister, who's now a retired judge from Washington State, she said, you should go to law school. You like to argue with people and passionate about things, and that's it. That was the marker. So, and I believe in fighting for people's rights, sort of. That's sort of the inspiration. So that's how I started. Took the course for the LSAT, ended up doing pretty well. And then here I am.
That's awesome.
38 years later.
Well, you know what? And I know you glossed over it because as you're this humble guy, amazing guy, but you played college baseball. That's amazing, right? Can you, are there any sort of lessons or stuff from your time of playing baseball that you can think of, I've applied this in my practice?
100%. So one of the things you learn is, number one, being a good teammate. It isn't always about you. And also in baseball, it's a game of failure. And if you're a hitter, I was a pitcher, but I hit in high school too. And if you're a 300 hitter, you fail 7 out of 10 times, right? And as a lawyer, we don't win all our cases. If you're trying tough cases, you're going to have cases you're going to lose. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try them. It means you're still out there fighting for the right cause. And but you have to be able to deal with that failure. Doesn't mean you like failing. I hate losing. I remember every case I've lost 100%. But I do remember the joy of being able to represent a family and be able to bring it home for them. And even on a case where you might lose, the fact that you're fighting for that family and for what's right, doing it the right way, it's very gratifying, I think.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And so, we know that you started your career, you eventually at Greene, Broillet and Wheeler. How did that happen?
That's a great question.
How did that get started? Because we know of Greene Broillet as being an amazing firm with amazing attorneys such as yourself. How did that connection start?
That's another great question. Okay, so first of all, when I was in law school, I got a job, right? Because the first thing, I had student loans and rent and everything. So I had a job with a med-mal defense firm called Dummett and Agajanian. And they represented both hospital liability, and then also the Agajanian family had a lot of racetracks that people would be slip and falls on the racetrack, tires going into the stands, guys getting in fights. So anyway, I did that for 2 years where I did defense. And I learned a lot about how the insurance part does risk, how they evaluate cases, the importance of integrity, the importance of the lawyers that do things the right way, how they don't really mind paying a premium to a lawyer that they think is honest, hardworking, and legitimate. And the reverse is also true. They don't really like paying people they think that are trying to game the system. So I learned about that for 2 years, and then I went.
By the way, can I interrupt you there?
Sure.
Just like that, the value of having that experience and then eventually moving on to the plaintiff end. Like can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's really important, I think, to be able to have a professional relationship with your opposing counsel. And there's an old saying, I, as a defense lawyer, would be much more likely to want to pay a little more money to a guy like Kenny Ramirez that I know is a good guy doing things the right way, as opposed to a jerk that's out there trying to say the case is a $100,000 case and you're saying it's $2 million. You got to have credibility. So I learned about the importance of credibility, not trying to oversell everything all the time. Sometimes if you don't have something in your case, you don't have it. So that credibility that you build up with your clients, with the jurors, it's also credibility with opposing counsel. So that is something that I did learn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so then after that...
So it's kind of a funny story. So one of my best friends from law school, a guy named Steve Angarella, he had gotten an offer with a plaintiff firm, sole practitioner in actually the same building where I was working. And he goes, I think I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to go out and do my own practice. But one of my best buddies, you might want to talk to him. So that was a guy named Michael Hughes that's now passed away, but he's a real gunslinger. And he tried the tobacco cases, and he did a lot of crazy, wild stuff. So I went to work for him, and I worked for him for almost 5 years, which is a place where a lot of people have worked. John Taylor, myself, Doug Schaefer, Mike Alder, Bob Simon, I think, was running space in there at one time. And so I learned a lot from him. He's a very good lawyer, and I tried in 4 years about 20 cases to verdict by myself. And that's before you had, jury consultants and technology and all. I mean, I went down with the file, I wrote the complaint, and I worked on the appeal, so cool. In the butcher block paper, and I learned how to do things kind of the old-fashioned way. But you also learn the importance of keeping it simple sometimes too. Because I feel like sometimes we get too caught up in all the stuff, and we keep it simple, keep the case simple, and learn by looking people in the eye and doing things kind of a humble, authentic, right way. It seems like it still carries the day today.
No, absolutely. And then that's how do we go then?
How do we go from there? Okay, so at that time, I had broken up with a girlfriend. We had moved out, and I had moved into a house with a guy named Brian Panish and a guy named Mike Whitaker. And they were both working at a defense firm at that time called Ingstrom, Lipscomb, and Lack. And so I had gotten, a little bit of a lead, and Brian says, hey, they might be looking for somebody at Greene, Broillet, and Wheeler. One thing led to another. Tim Wheeler called me and said, hey, would you be interested? And my wife's like, yeah, he's interested. He's interested. That's awesome. I'm like, I felt like I owed Mike. He gave me my chance to try cases. And so I went to him and said, hey, can you kind of match the deal that they're doing? And he goes, honestly, Geoff, at your age, I think I was about 34 at the time, maybe. He goes, if I was you, I would go with those guys.
Wow, and that's really cool of him.
And it was cool of him to say that, actually.
I love that you went to him, out of respect and loyalty, and then that he gave that answer too. I mean, it was a perfect thing.
I did feel loyal and honestly a level of respect that I wanted to give him that opportunity. And he gave me a good answer. That was 32 years ago.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so because of our time, as we've said, everybody knows we're in Maui, so we want to get space to go out and do what we want. Families are doing in Maui, but you are the president now of the Consumer Attorneys of California. It is the organization that fights for consumers. Both at the legislative end and political end, in so many different areas. You are now assuming the leadership of this amazing organization, and I just kind of wanted to talk to you, one, of the importance for you of taking on this role, and what are your hopes for this upcoming year?
Sure. Well, so first of all, I want to give credit to the people that came before me. Okay, so at my firm, 3 past presidents, Brown Greene, Bruce Broillet, Christine Spagnoli, they were all past presidents. They inspired me to run. And then they also inspired me the importance of giving back and having leadership that matters. And you have to be able to kind of, we have a broad group.
Yeah.
We have employment cases all the way to auto accident cases and everything in between. But the forces that kind of want to shut down our clients' access to the courtrooms, they're always there. They're the Chamber of Commerce. There's big pharma, big tobacco, big oil. They're out there. They have lobbyists. They spend tens or hundreds of millions of dollars every year to lobby against. What do they want to do? They want to reduce our clients' rights. They want to reduce access to the court system. They want to take away because they don't like being held accountable for their bad deeds. So how do you fight back on that? Well, we have this small team of the 2 Nancys, Leon Tratton, Savina Takar, and what do? They fight every day in Sacramento, and then we help with that. But they really are the wisdom and the strength behind our organization. Yeah. And Nancy Drabla has this incredible 35-year history dating all the way back to Ralph Nader in Washington, D.C. of fighting for consumer rights. Yeah. And so all of those things I've taken in, I realize it's important to give back and to show leadership, and you have to got to be able to listen to people. My dad used to say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and that's because you got to listen and then listen. But at the end of the day, you got to make decisions. And I think by being on this ladder for like 8 years now, I've learned you're not going to be always right, but you have to make a decision and then you move forward. Yeah. And I think I'll be able to do that.
That's awesome. And I'm super excited for your time here as the president of CAOC. With one final thing, if I could have you maybe speak to maybe attorneys who may not be as involved with CAOC. What is the message that you can give to them as well to get involved?
So that's a really great question. So here's the thing. You can't wait until you're on the edge of a cliff. But everybody losing their right to support people to get involved. You got to get involved now. You got to get involved with your time, if you have time, and if you have money, great. But if you have time and money, even better. But you got to get involved now, because the fight that we're going to face now the next few years is going to be the fight of our lifetime. Why do I say that? I say that because who just got elected president, the people that he's surrounding himself with, they're going to come after the states. They're coming after women. They're coming after girls' rights. They're going to come after your clients' rights. How are you going to be positioned to fight against that? Well, you have to have relationships with the senators and the assembly people in Sacramento that believe the same things that you do. And if you don't have those relationships, if you don't support them, if you don't get involved, then when the onslaught comes, what are you going to say to your clients, to your kids? Hey, I knew this was coming. What did I do? I did nothing. I sat on the sidelines, or I got in the fight. And now is the time you must get involved and get in the fight right now. It couldn't be more important than it is right now.
No, absolutely. And it takes us almost back to where we started off, right? We have to get in the game. We have to play.
Got to get in the game.
Can't stay on the sidelines.
Cannot stay on the sidelines. I started out as a young lawyer giving $25 a month. That now I give personally. I think you have to personally have skin in the game to be able to understand the importance of what we do. And I've still done that. I've done that since Michael Pugh, since I started working for him in 88. And I upped that each year as I got a little more money. But I mean, my firm, obviously, as a partner now, we kick in the bigger kicker. But everybody needs skin in the game. It takes all of us. And we still have an onslaught to fight against. But what we fight for is right. And the people that we represent, people know that who we represent, we're on the right side of history. So we got to make sure that we don't let this whole system get collapsed because of the forces against us.
Yeah. And we will stand and we will move forward. And
I
will
appreciate that.
Everybody.
I know I can depend on you as a fellow baseball guy to get in the game.
Thank you so much for your time,
Kenny.
Jeff.
Of course.
And everybody, again, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I hope you took something out of this. I know there was a lot, and that both Jeff's story here in brief, but you were inspired by who Jeff is. who he is and how he conducts himself and everything that he's done. So thank you for spending some time with us. Until next time.